This episode is brought to you by Magnetic Video. Magnetic Video, now offering 50 titles from 20th Century Fox.
Oh my God, friends, welcome to VHS Tapes Are Magic. This took longer to get this first episode up and running than I ever had intended. And I sincerely thank you for your patience, for your interest. And if you're new here, welcome. If you found me on my social media through the videotapes, hey, no mold, let's get into it. If you are know me from the We Watch Wrestling podcast, welcome. If you were here for Justifying My Movie Collection, welcome back. It's going to be a much different format than that. If you wandered over here from Watch It with Matt and Glennis, welcome. I mean, look, this is I've never done anything like this before. This is what I'm trying to do. And if you don't know, this is Matt McCarthy. I have a huge, vast physical media collection, movie collection, videotapes in particular, and the thing that has always intrigued me has been, stuff taped off of TV, going to estate sales, archiving all that stuff, just out of pure curiosity. And I'm trying to do the podcast that I was, looking forward to, looking to listen to myself. And part of that is I want to know the history of video stores, of how all of this started, how we came to, have home videos and DVDs and all that stuff, and to talk to people who are like me, who are big physical media heads, who still collect, maybe even go so far as to don't trust the streamers, and talk to people who collect movies, who worked in video stores, who just that's what this is, and that's what it's starting as. And as we continue to do this, I have no idea what it may turn into, but I've already talked to a couple people, and then different things out of my control happened, and today is the day, and today is the perfect day for this to be posted. So right now, the show is going to be, I talked to somebody, a like-minded deviant, and today is a fantastic episode. I am talking with Patrick Walsh, formerly of the We'll See You in Hell podcast, and you'll notice when Pat and I are talking, that show had not ended yet. So we are talking about it in the present tense, and Pat is a brilliant writer, comedy writer, showrunner. He works on the Ms. Pat show. He ran Living Biblically, a criminally underrated show. He ran The Cool Kids, which we don't touch on, but if there's any hellions out there, I'm laughing. And Pat is a former Blockbuster Video employee and a fellow movie collector. He celebrates the entire Criterion collection. He owns every Criterion Blu-ray. How about that, kids? And then in between, and really shout out to Dana Gould, because that's got to be my favorite podcast, the Dana Gould Hour, and I'm just straight up stealing his format. It's going to be an interview, a middle segment, and then an interview on the other end. Today, I talked with Pat so long, it's going to be Pat both times. It might be one interview broken up, It might be two different interviews. I don't know. But our middle segment is going to be, trying to explore the history of these things and the history of video stores and VHS tapes. And so today we are going to be looking at Andre the Giant, not the French professional wrestler, Andre Blay, the father of home video. So without further ado, we're going to get into that. I also want to mention up top, and I will mention this again at the end, all the music you hear is by the inimitable Mike Doty, who I've said this to his face, and now I'm going to say this into your ears. The man is my favorite singer-songwriter, always has been, and I am just thrilled. It's so funny when we were talking about getting the music together for the show. He was like, well, definitely give me credit. I'm like, Mike, I'm going to be walking up to strangers on the bus and telling them Mike Doty did the music for my podcast. So very excited about that. Anyway, you can join my Patreon, join the Video Movie Club. That's where right now we're fast approaching 4 terabytes of digitized videotape footage, and that is all found, VHS tapes at people's houses. It's always the most common question. You like people's home movies that they made in their bedrooms? Stop it. It's really, I'm trying to preserve old television and old television broadcasts and the commercials and the news briefs and all that stuff. And if you ever want to send anything my way, we accept donations here in the Video Garage, and that the P.O. box is in the bio of this song that you're listening to, in the description of the song, of the episode. Anyway, I have gone on way too long, but I did want to just introduce myself, welcome you to the show, and all that good stuff. So right now, this is my conversation with Mr. Pat Walsh. Please enjoy. Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to format this thing, but you were one of the first people I thought of that I wanted to talk to.
Love it.
I actually, get a load of this, I contacted a friend who's a librarian.
Okay.
And they walked me through, here's how you send a request to the central library. I want to actually do research on how video stores started and stuff.
Is that how they started?
I don't know. No. I mean, I'm actually gonna
to do research. I got you.
Yeah, what books?
Because I used to rent videos at the library. I thought that's what you meant.
I feel like that's the first place I remember renting videos was being 3 or 4, and being at my Aunt Karen's house.
Yeah.
And renting this Mighty Mouse tape that I've never really been able to find, or at least remember what was on the tape.
Yeah.
But I just remember it being so funny.
That's such a coincidence, because the first video I rented was also at your aunt's house. We haven't discussed this connection, but
that's insane. They definitely had a VCR before we did. Do you remember your first? Do you remember getting a VCR?
I gotta say, my earliest memories of this kind of thing, and they're fuzzy. I've blocked out a whole lot of my childhood, not even just video related, but sanity related.
Who can blame you?
Yeah, my next door neighbors, the Penrods, had one before us, if memory serves, and they would invite my parents over. And looking back, they both sets of parents were 30 or younger. Definitely,
Yeah.
My parents were under 30. So I remember them going over and watching the original Alien, which nobody had seen, and them screaming downstairs. And anytime a kid would pop their head in, get out of here. So definitely, maybe that led to me being super into these and wanting to see them, because it was they're having so much fun and I can't be a part of it. As far as our house getting one, we definitely didn't have beta. We started with VHS, but I remember having a pretty big collection almost immediately. When McDonald's came out with the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, remember they had like Ghost, Last Crusade. They had like
Mm.
four movies that McDonald's would give away for $10 each with a Happy Meal or
I
something.
think Back to the Future as
Back to
well.
the Future. Yeah, that's when we
Yeah.
started actually adding them to the collection. But I do feel like my family had a VCR pretty early on because we'd record stuff. My dad always had Three Stooges, 6 hour collections, EP mode,
Hmm.
or like it would be the African Queen and two other movies, the worst possible quality. Because not only is it VHS, but it's EP mode. And I know you,
Yeah.
you dig up these things all the time, but just terrible quality.
Um, and so then, what's your earliest memory of going to a video store? Do you have one?
For sure. I mean, my family, what are you going to say? Lower middle class. We weren't destitute or anything, but we were never a Blockbuster family. And up until I started working at Blockbuster, I only worked there because I always felt like that was out of my reach, price wise, to even go in one. So when I worked there, I got the 5 free rentals a week and everything. But we rented our movies from the grocery store always.
Dude,
Um,
you're singing my song. We
yeah.
had a super stop and shop. That was
Yes.
the favorite part of my day was if my mom was going to go grocery shopping, I had it timed. I could walk the entire thing
Yeah.
and be at the horror section at the very end by the time she came to get me.
Yeah, I just watched this movie called I Like Movies, which I would highly recommend if you haven't seen it.
I heard you talking about that and I put it on my list.
It is about growing up and being obsessed with videos and people not really getting you, and it hit home. It hit home really hard, that movie. But yeah, same thing. The kid's mom drops him off, or she's like, "We can run in here, but you have 5 minutes. You can pick out one movie." And I had versions of that conversation up until I left the house.
Yeah.
So we went to this place called Farmore, which was like a CVS, out of business by now, but it was basically a grocery slash CVS type vibe, and it had a really good video selection. You could get six for $3. It was buy one get one, and they were $1 each.
That's
So
great.
every Friday that I can recall from my childhood through my teen years, that was sort of a non-negotiable. It was a good way to get us out of their hair for the weekend. We would go up there, rent 6 movies, and then just be left to our own devices. So that's
Did,
it. I'd rent them there. I'd ride my bike up to the grocery store later on and rent them. And then my big scam, once I got really into film, which usually I would wait, I would set my alarm for 2 a.m., which is when my dad finished his movie viewing, his adult movie viewing, not
uh-huh.
porn, but R rated.
Yeah.
I couldn't see PG-13 till I was 13, couldn't see R till I was 17. Um, but my dad would watch, say, Do the Right Thing. I wasn't even sneaking Showgirls and stuff. I wanted to see like Do the Right Thing,
Yeah.
Goodfellas, all these big movies, Pulp Fiction later. So I would wake myself up via alarm, sneak out, and watch the movies with my ear up to the speaker and the downstairs TV. Not the ideal way to first see Goodfellas, but that's the first way I saw it. And then I learned that at Schnucks, my local grocery store, they never checked the tape. They only scanned the barcode. So I would put the movies I wanted to see, let's say Casino, I would put it always in the box of a movie that I knew nobody would rent. And that choice generally was Tucker the Man in His Dream. The not bad movie, even now that I've seen it as an adult, but it's the Coppola movie about making cars. And I would swap the tapes and the barcodes. So I bring up Tucker, they scan it, Casino's inside, but it scans as Tucker. And I would go home and watch all that. Later on, I would get into the Showgirls and Basic Instinct and things like that. But they never checked. They just thought, dear God, this kid is obsessed with the making of the Model T Ford.
How did you switch the barcode? Was it a sticker or
Peel
what?
it right off. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Good for
And
you.
yeah, looking back, it was very, very savvy. When my dad finally found the stack of, I always had a stack of 6 movies in my room. And one day, for whatever reason, he looked in there and saw that one of them was, if memory serves, Sliver
Uh-huh.
with Sharon Stone, which he had seen, and he knew what that was about. And I remember him yelling at me and slapping his hand over and over. And he said, "What's next, Patrick? The movies where you actually see the penis going in to the vagina? Is that what it's going to take next?" And just trying not to laugh on my bed. I was horrified at the time, but also it's very funny to have your dad scream that in your face, especially when you've already seen those movies. But anyway,
Can I tell you, in the movie Parenthood,
yeah. Oh boy, talk about an awkward viewing.
dude,
Yeah,
when Joaquin Phoenix has the bag and Diane Wiest, his mom, wants to know what's in the bag, and she dumps it out, and it's
yeah,
all, you know, regular movies, and then
yeah,
one cassette falls out, and then she realizes it's porn.
yeah,
That was the moment he lost me. I was so into the idea of having all of those movies, like the real
yeah,
movies.
yeah. Can I tell you, subconsciously, I'm not sure, but that probably helped give me the idea of doing all this swapping and sneaking
Oh, I'm
around.
sure, right?
Because I saw it too young. It is only PG-13, but it is kind of a hard PG-13. It's a movie about family, but it's not really a family movie. When the old lady comes in with the foot-long dildo,
Oh my God.
and then they go, "It was pretty big." It sure was, a huge laugh. And
Yeah.
my aunt, her sister, were dying laughing. And I'm 11 years old. Like, what are you laughing about? What is it? What is that? And then there, so many things that I learned were from my mom being red-faced and sputtering out an explanation that I knew was a lie, and then me being determined to find out what the truth was.
We had very similar
You're
experiences.
Catholic, right? Raised Catholic.
Yes, yeah, Irish
Yeah, I mean,
Catholic.
I get teased about this. I'll be at lunch with a friend, and I'll say, "So yeah, we've been dating for 6 months, and the sex." I always go, "The sex." I have to lower it to a whisper, and I don't notice I do it. If I say anything related to sex, my voice drops because it just was never. My parents still will not
Yeah.
acknowledge that sexuality exists in the world.
Yeah, very similar. I mean, it's funny, because my son is 9 now, and
Oh,
he's
okay, yeah,
he's at
older
an
than I
age.
thought.
Well, he's at an age where I'm showing him, like I'm like, okay, we could watch this, or not even just what's appropriate. What is it? Because he's always curious. He's like, oh, is it too violent? And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, you just would find it boring. It like this. It wouldn't hold your attention.
sure.
So we finally watched Big,
Okay.
which like he was usually we'll watch before bed, like during dinner, and then once it gets to okay, we got to hop in the shower,
Yeah.
we'll turn it off, or I'm like, we'll leave off here. That was one where he was like, no, I don't need to hear stories at bed, like I have to see the end of this movie. He was in.
Oh, okay.
But the reason I bring it up is because there is that sex scene where she's in her bra, and I
I
think he.
remember it vividly to this day. And I'm not even super attracted to Elizabeth Perkins, but it's ingrained because it was an early
Uh-huh.
bra sighting in a
Yeah.
PG movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of put my hands in front of his eyes, but I'll let him watch, like we've watched Aliens,
Okay, yeah.
but Elizabeth Perkins in a bra, I still get that Irish Catholic like, uh-oh.
Yeah, and I had a friend whose father eventually came out of the closet, but I spent a lot of time over there, and he was significantly more lax than my parents, and they had a very nice VHS collection. So most of my R-rated viewing was over there and swearing his parents to secrecy about what I was watching.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It worked great, and I even stole a couple from my friend. Once he got Showgirls, I quickly stole that from their home, and I returned it. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, a lot of my early viewing, it was maybe 75-25. 75 was true cinephile, budding cinephile interest, and the other
Yeah.
25 was just horny kid who was not being shown any of this stuff or didn't have access to any of it. But it was so strict in my house that if two people would kiss and the music would change, even if it was Billy Crystal and Deborah Winger, I remember Forget Paris.
Uh-huh.
They just kiss. I would go into the kitchen until the music changed back. And my dad just loved that I did that. He never once said, "You don't have to leave the room." It was pretty much implied.
Yeah.
However, one of the craziest stories about what my dad would permit, because he was so strict about it, he wanted me to see The Exorcist very early on, probably younger than your son is now, to learn about Catholicism. I have a feeling he didn't remember the crucifix masturbation bit, But he didn't stop it. And since that certainly wasn't a romantic scene, it floored. I was like, what is happening? And what she's saying on top of that, talk about blasphemy. So the movie ends. I'm traumatized beyond belief, having never seen a PG-13. And my dad goes, you know, that happened right here in St. Louis.
Oh my God.
I'll take you to the steps where they threw the priest down. I'm like, okay, all right. So he had very strange standards. And also, because he had only seen things in the theater or at the drive-in, and my dad was an alcoholic for many, many years, especially in his teens and 20s, he didn't remember these movies. So very often he'd be playing something and clearly be shocked because he had forgotten a scene that I was not supposed to see. So do you have that ever where you're showing your son something and you forget some crazy sequence or something?
I'll tell you two quick stories. One was, and I was very aware of this. I showed him Gremlins when he still believed in Santa, and I was very aware of the Phoebe Cates speech.
Well, you know that's the birth of the PG-13, that movie. That and Temple of Doom led to the PG-13 because parents were like, these aren't kids' movies, guys.
I mean, Gremlins, I was in kindergarten and had like the story on record, like a 45.
Yeah.
And it made like this. If I heard the sound right now, the little bell that rings to let you know to turn the page, every hair on my body would stand on end.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so I was very adept at accidentally, like if it was a DVD, accidentally forwarding to the next chapter or hitting mute on something. That's happened here and there. He's big into The Simpsons, and I've kind of given up on, muting it, like, when Homer has the makeup in the shotgun and he shoots it at the wall and Marge goes, "You had it set to whore." I was like, I knew that was coming.
Okay. Yeah. I was always allowed to see The Simpsons and never allowed to see In Living Color, which when I look back was just simple racism from my parents.
Just straight racism. Well,
Yeah,
I tell you what,
even the president was telling kids we should not be watching The Simpsons at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Recently, because I was like, he's into spooky stuff. And when it's PG-13, I'm, I could see it either way.
Yeah.
He wanted to watch Megan, and we saw Megan in the theater, Glennis and I, and I was like, what's scary about a robot? This is
R or PG-13, Megan?
PG-13.
Okay.
Well, here's the problem. I put it on, and first there's a couple of F-bombs, which I was like, I don't remember that. I figured there would only be one. And then when the first kill happens, that kid gets his ear ripped off.
Right.
I'm like, this is way gorier than I remember. And then I realized, oh no, we're watching the unrated director's cut.
Okay. All right. You don't need that. Yeah.
But part of me was glad. I mean, like, it's a strange thing being a parent, but also such a movie lover, because I do want him to watch. I don't want him to be traumatized, but I do want him to have the experience of watching a scary movie when it's still going to be scary.
100%. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. I was a wuss and remained a wuss until me and our mutual friend Joe started doing a horror movie podcast. And even in the early days of that podcast, I watched Hellraiser and I said, Joe, I couldn't finish it. Yeah. Now I'm so desensitized, there's nothing that can bother me.
Right.
But I just wasn't exposed to that when I was a kid. Scary to me was Beetlejuice or Large Marge, or Tim Burton stuff.
Sure.
That was kind of my bar, my limit for spooky. Yeah, I definitely didn't see gore for sure. It was by and large always a sex issue. Always a sex issue.
Yeah. So did you find the grocery stores, their video selection was shittier than like a chain, like a Blockbuster? Like, did you have a Blockbuster right away, or was there another chain? Like, we had Major Video before Blockbuster came to town.
We had Family Video, which I was not allowed to go to until I got my own car because they had a porn section behind the double saloon doors.
Oh,
and why
sure.
they called it Family Video, I'll never know. But yeah, for sure. We had a few. Our grocery stores were pretty well stocked, though. They definitely had whole walls of new releases like a Blockbuster. They were competitive, certainly, but way cheaper. Blockbuster, as I said, was always way, way more expensive. The selection was good, though. I had a book that I took to the video store for the first 10 years of me being a fan, which was called I was a big Entertainment Weekly guy, which started around 1990, I want to say. So I'm 9, 10. And they released a book called The Entertainment Weekly Guide to the 100 Best Movies in Every Genre. And I'm sure you can still find it used on Amazon pretty cheap, but it was a wonderful book that I still bring out all the time, more than Malton's, more than almost anybody's. I loved it, and I would just check it off. I'm going to try to see all the great movies. And that's often how I presented it to my father. Dad, I need to see The Godfather Part 2 because X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to it looking for nipples. I'm going to it because of this, this, and this. If you see nipples, I will leave the room. It was a courtroom case, basically, that I was pleading to him for all these movies. But that book really was, just like now the AFI list and all that, they wind up being pretty good guidelines for things. But it was really great because it got into each genre. It covered about 100 years of film. And I agreed with most of their choices. Very rarely would I watch something and go, I don't know why they like that so much. What got weird was going over to a sleepover with 5 other 12-year-old boys and saying, let's watch Blue Velvet tonight. And them going, what in God's name is this? However, today, those same friends are like, I am so glad you opened up my mind and my taste, and that I was watching Raising Arizona at 13 instead of Baby's Day Out or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I was having my mind blown, and I just wanted to share that with others. Sometimes they wouldn't hit with my friends, but I think eventually they appreciated watching things that were of a higher quality.
That's tremendous. Yeah, because I have the do you still have that book?
I do. Yeah, you can borrow it anytime. It's
That's
fantastic.
tremendous. I have the I think I was in high school, I want to say. I'm looking for it on my shelf. But the first edition when they put out the the 101 or 1001 movies to see before you die.
Yeah, I got one. I got the latest one. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can't even see who published it, but
I think that's a New York Times, I think, who just released their top 100 of the century list.
Yeah, what'd you think of that? The recent 25 years.
There's always going to be quibbles. Taste is subjective, but I thought it's a great primer list for sure.
Yeah.
The only one I hadn't seen, or at least I had forgotten, was Spirited Away, and I quickly rewatched it and fucking loved it.
Had you seen everything on their list?
Usually I have because because of that book, really, and because I was such an obsessed fan from such a young age. But when I went to college, I went to Webster University, which nobody knows, but it's a film school in St. Louis, the only one really around there. And I wanted to do film studies, and they give you a 100-question test to gauge what your knowledge level is going in to kind of know where to place you. And I got 100 out of 100. And they were like, you need to learn film production or something. Like, there's no point in you taking these classes.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I did, because ultimately I would have gotten way better grades, but it would have been a waste of my time.
Yeah, that's hilarious. When did you, I want to get into when you started working at Blockbuster, but I'm also just curious if, because in my mind, one of the other places you could rent videos, in my hometown was at the Rumford Pharmacy, which was mostly where I went to get wrestling magazines and comic books. But that was a place where the selection they had, I was like, what the fuck are these movies? That was the place where I was like, they made a movie about the Punisher with Dolph Lundgren? This is insane.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess we're talking about direct to video movies.
Right.
Were you only interested in, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, were you only interested in good movies, or were you just wanting to watch anything?
Yeah, not at all, because this book also had a cult section and a movies you've never heard of 100 list as well.
Okay.
And I wanted to check those off, but those were very difficult to find. So especially when I'm getting into my driving years, 15, 16, 17, that's when I started going, hey, I'm going to go to this Hollywood Video 45 minutes away and see if I can check off some of this stuff that I can't find around here. I started treating it like a real scavenger hunt. And I try to be better about not referring to elements of my life as sad because they made me who I am. But there is a sadness, on a Friday night to like going to 12 different Hollywood videos. But I loved it. It gave my life purpose at that time. And that's what I strongly feel is missing from the streaming movement, where allegedly you can find whatever you want at a moment's notice. But that overwhelming freedom of choice makes me paralyzed. I have OCD. So what I wind up doing, I'm dating a girl now, and I always have to say, give me a specific genre, vibe, or mood you want to feel, and I can pick you 3 choices. It will never work for you to say, I don't care, you pick, because 2 hours from now I will have a stack of 45 movies, and I'll be sweating, and we won't watch anything. So yeah, the video store, it requires you to make a choice. And then that's your entertainment for the weekend. You have to watch it. If you get 20 minutes in and you go, this isn't for me, you're still going to finish it. Not the case with streaming. How many things do you have sitting and continue watching that have 2 minutes where you're like, oh, fuck this,
Yeah.
And ultimately you become a better and more well-rounded person, viewer, whatever you want to call it, by being not forced, but you've rented it, you've paid your money, you're going to sit and watch it. So like, you're going to have experiences you wouldn't have because you're doing things you wouldn't normally want to do. And that ultimately makes you more whole, more complete, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I think that's the one aspect I tried to appreciate it at the time, and I appreciate it more now, but there is something to having the experience of getting to the store, the video store, and they don't have the movie you wanted to see. And now you're in a situation where you're either going to find something else, find something you didn't want to watch or didn't know you wanted to watch, or you're going to ask the person who works there, this is what I was looking for. What would you suggest instead?
Yeah. Well, that was my biggest laugh in I Like Movies, because there's a young, dumb, trendy couple that says, what should we watch tonight? And the kid recommends Todd Solondz's Happiness to them, which I watched last night for the 5th time. It's one of my favorite movies, but I don't tell anyone that. But yeah, that's not something I would recommend, because that would lead to somebody coming in and screaming at me. Honestly, like a movie like that in Missouri, they'd be like, what is the matter with you?
Yeah.
But I would often say they'd come in looking for Titanic, and I would send them home with something that, maybe Mulholland Drive even. And I would know, okay, this is probably not going to be up their alley, but boy, did I love it when they would come in and go, that movie, it was a lot of hicks. It was, Missouri.
Yeah.
When some guy come in and go, that movie was crazy, man. And those 2 chicks going at it. I'm like, hey, whatever got you into this, great.
Right.
If I can broaden somebody's mind a little bit, happy to do it. But then I did have people pissed all the time or demand refunds. There was a big Blockbuster Hollywood battle going on in Missouri. I don't know about your neck of the woods.
There was, and I was so embittered with Blockbuster because, one, I had such a fondness for the major video that we would go to, and early, before I was even aware of what was happening, I was piecing it together that, like, oh, Blockbuster's putting these other places out of business.
Yeah.
Which I just thought was disgusting. And then, again, just from experience, not knowing, I was like, wait a second, this is like, there's less interesting movies now that this store has turned into a Blockbuster.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want something a little off the beaten path, or, I don't know what I'm looking for, but this isn't it. Or, man, there's no library here. It's all just new releases, it feels like.
Yeah, well, what you're saying about that, they didn't have what I want, but I want, it's like Mick Jagger once said, you can't always get what you want, but you might get what you need. My biggest of those, and this was when I was a full-on cinephile. I was already in college at this point, but I went in looking for fill in the blank, whatever the big movie of the day was.
Right.
And I, annoyed, walked out with 2 that day brand new releases that they had just put on the shelf: Wet Hot American Summer and Donnie Darko.
And you went in knowing nothing.
Really rented them because I saw everything in the theater back then, and these were 2 that never came to Missouri, and I was like, I'll watch these stupid direct-to-video pieces of crap.
Wow.
Boy, and then it led, those were two movies I showed to friends where they were like, all right, anything you bring us now becomes a priority. Like this guy's got a line on what's good. You know, my friends love
Yeah.
that. I love, they're still two of my favorite movies. Um,
I think
it's
that's
also
also
interesting.
something.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that's also something that's lost without the home video market is, again, a movie finding its audience, because I had similar
Yes.
experiences with Office Space and Big Lebowski, where I was like, oh, I thought these stunk. They were in and out of the theater, and
Yeah.
then one person in my life was like, oh no, we rented it. You'd fucking love it.
Yeah. I saw those both opening night, St. Charles 18, multiplex. And
Yeah,
there was Big Lebowski was a quarter full, and it was me and my friend dying laughing and
yeah.
silence from everyone else. And then Office Space was me and my friend Ben and no one else on opening night. Talk about a
Wow.
bomb. But things were weird in Missouri. I tell a few stories on my podcast with Joe that always really stick with me, like In and Out, which I think is a brilliant comedy.
Sure.
Frank Oz, Paul Rudnick wrote it, and it's lampooning that speech Tom Hanks made where he outed his drama teacher from high school, and it's suggesting what if an actor did that, but the teacher wasn't out, and he was actually engaged to be married to a borderline psychotic Joan Cusack.
Yeah.
Very, very funny movie, and everyone's laughing and enjoying it when it's lightly mocking gays, very lightly, because it was written by a gay man, and it was
Yeah.
it was tongue in cheek, but as soon as he kissed Tom Selleck, no tongue, no grabbing asses, anything. But as soon as those two men kissed, the entire theater left. And as they're walking out, they felt they needed to vocalize how disgusted they were, so that their date didn't perhaps think, oh no, what if my boyfriend liked this? Insane. I know a guy. I heard this story not long ago, where he took his girlfriend to see Brokeback Mountain. And when they started having sex, she reached over and grabbed his lap to see if he was hard.
Get what? What?
We have made a lot of progress. It doesn't seem like it, but we have made a lot of progress.
That's one of the more insane things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And In and Out was a PG-13, harmless. But
Yeah.
we were often thrown, me and my dad, with the rating system because, like, The Breakfast Club, he eventually let me watch because it was just for language. And The Breakfast Club is rated R, truly just for language. There's nothing
Yeah.
else. They say the F word a lot. Maybe some troubling themes with bullying and stuff, but that's every high school movie.
The most accurate pot smoking scene in history.
Yeah, oh yeah, and pot, right. 16 Candles contains pot smoking, F word, boobs with the boing sound effect.
Right.
It's and that's
And-
PG, and these movies were released like 9 months apart. There seemed to be no rhyme or reason to the rating system back then, which led to me having a list of the PGs that contained nudity that I would
sure.
rent and re-rent and re-rent and re-rent. Still to this day, my dad eventually sold my massive VHS collection without asking me, but probably
Yeah,
for dollars.
I think people listening to this are not going to want you to just brush right past that. Like, just tell that story.
Well, as you can see behind me, and I know you have one too, but I have a massive library of Blu-rays and 4K. And I basically said with Blu-ray, that's it for me until I saw how good 4K looked. Now, if they do an 8K, I have to be done. But
I don't think there's. I don't think
improve on it.
Yeah, I don't think the market is going to be there for it.
No, and good for my pocketbook.
I know.
But I had an entire wall of my basement was VHS tapes, and a lot of those were bought straight from the grocery store. The grocery store had limited space, so they were often selling great movies for $1, for $3.99, whatever. Like it's almost the same cost as renting it.
Yeah.
And I would just, I collected so many of them. Now, when I moved away, I said to my dad, look, I know that this is a burden and that you're not going to want all these forever, but you need to give me notice and let me know. And I can at least pull out the ones that are valuable or something, like we can look into selling them. I'll come home. We'll figure it out. And it wasn't even a month later, he casually mentions that he had sold the entire lot or dumped them at Goodwill or something. He did this later with vinyl too. He had a big vinyl collection, and I said, I have a really nice record player now, and I collect them. So please don't just toss them. Like, I'd want those. I'd pay the shipping. And days later, he sold them. It's almost like me saying it made him think, ooh, maybe I could make $5.
Yeah.
We don't have the best relationship. But yeah, I don't think I lost anything in that haul that would have made me a millionaire. VHS, what is the most valuable VHS?
It's probably, I mean, they're horror movies. It's just these
Yeah.
random horror movies. I think the ones that come to mind are the first issue on Wizard Video of Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Oh, okay.
Halloween on Meta,
Okay.
Charles Band's old label.
Sure.
And then there are just like ones you've never heard of, and you're like, I don't know, I don't think anybody actually wants this.
Yeah.
Like Tales from the Quasi Sphere or something. It's like this is a movie like people shot on video in their house and there became this weird cult thing around it. I'm like, that feels a little artificial to
Yeah.
me.
Well, as they always tell me at Amoeba, like that may be what it says it's worth online. That don't mean it's
Right.
what people are going to pay.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I definitely felt like I had lost a big piece of my childhood then. But then again, I can't imagine sitting and watching a VHS now. The quality is too subpar.
Well, I mean, as Joe will often mention on the show, there are certain movies where it does add to the aesthetic,
Yeah, sure.
Like for instance, I was just in Houston, Texas, and
Yeah.
I found this antique mall that I was like, thank God it's the last day, and thank God I don't have all weekend to spend in here, because part of it was just run of the mill antiques, and then there was a separate section, all these booths. It was just VHS, video games, toys,
Yeah.
so many movies. And they had, the reason I bring it up is because someone was selling at a pretty high markup. It was a limited, very limited run. I think it said one of 50 of Summer of '84 on VHS, which I was like, okay, see that tracks.
You mean
Um,
you're referring to the more recent movie, Summer of '84, like how those like House of the Devil will do a VHS
exactly.
release. I got you. Yeah.
Like watching, like even like watching Stranger Things on VHS would make sense.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
like
That'd be
Target
cool.
put out the Blu-ray and it looks like a VHS, but they're Blu-rays. But there are certain movies that, I mean, there would even be, I would think like, how like, Tarantino movies, you kind of want to watch it on a beat up 35 millimeter.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Although
Um,
the 4K of Jackie Brown brought tears to my eyes. It was so beautiful.
I I felt the same way when I watched. You got that 4K of Lawrence of Arabia, right?
Yes, but I saw it in 70 millimeter, and then I was like, you know what? I'll keep
Oh,
this wrapped in case it skyrockets. So I
sure.
haven't opened it.
It's I mean, some of those shots of the desert, it's really fucking remarkable. Or The Searchers, when I watched that, and I'm not like I like westerns pretty good. I think John Wayne is a fucking slog anytime he's on the screen.
I'd call him a limited actor. Yes,
But
we've got
again,
plenty of them today. But yeah, he was kind of a dud.
moments in that movie on that 4K, it was just like, holy fucking shit.
For sure. And that movie's not even my jam. I that
Yeah.
was one I sort of disagreed with even as a kid. I was like, there's way better westerns than this. I get that it's adult, it's very influential, but it always kind of felt like a slog, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Now I definitely remember more my early forays into DVD. My
Mm-hmm.
first DVD that I rented, and this is probably the worst test of the format, the Bette Midler vehicle Drowning Mona.
Oh.
And I remember being like, this is the wave of the future, but my issue was not with the format, but the film itself. And then my second was probably The Matrix, and I was like, okay, now I got it.
What
And
uh what drew you to renting Drowning Mona? Was it on a list or were you just
here's what it was for me. I would see certainly from age, well, driving age. So let's say 15 and a half through when I left for college, I would see every single movie.
yeah.
Maybe not the kiddiest of kiddie movies, but like whether I wanted to see them or not. I remember going to see Rocket Man, Harlan Williams. I had no interest in it. I would just be like, it's my OCD. I was undiagnosed at the time, but I was
Yeah.
like, I must see everything. And then once I was able to see R-rated movies, that became even worse because now you can see anything and everything.
Right.
But the only reason I would have rented Drowning Mona is because that was one I happened to miss at the theater because it was there for a week, you know.
Yeah. That's
And
tremendous.
I didn't hate it. It just wasn't the way to launch the format for me. But my earliest purchases of DVD, which included The Matrix and Sleepy Hollow and some other like 1999 classics, were always Suncoast because
Oh,
they would do like a 5 for 100 or something that seemed like a great deal, and I would be like, okay, I got to do this. Suncoast in the mall was big for me too.
December 7th, a date which will live in infamy. For it was on this day, today, in 1977, that Variety, the definitive Hollywood trade paper, ran the headline, H. Wood Picks on home tape, $50 per. It was official. 20th Century Fox was to be the first, and for the moment, the only major motion picture studio to make a small selection of its movies available on pre-recorded home video cassettes. And the world would be changed forever. So how did it all happen? Well, was there a huge meeting of executives in some swank boardroom in Century City? Were there big shots with even bigger cigars hammering out the details on the links of the Brentwood Country Club? Or was it in a shabby little office over 1,000 miles away in Farmington Hills, Michigan? Bingo. Now, I have no reason to believe that the offices of Magnetic Video were at all shabby. And in looking at the last known address on Google Maps, it reads like any other manufacturing office in like any other industrial park in the United States. But furthermore, I don't know if this is the address of the original Magnetic Video, found in 1969 by Andre Blay, Andre the Giant, or if this is a picture of the building when the company changed locations once the Fox deal was finalized. Anyway, what we do know is that Andre Blay is pretty well considered the father of what came to be called home video. There were a couple previous attempts at a home video market on differing formats, but this is the start of watching uncut, unedited, commercial-free movies on VHS and Betamax tapes on VCRs in your house. And it is Andre Blay who gets the credit. So Andre Blay was born July 27th, 1937 in Mount Clemens, Michigan, and he graduated from Michigan State University with a business engineering degree in production management. After college and military obligations, Andre got a job in manufacturing Corningware in New York. I'm not going to cut that out. I want the real. He was making Corningware in New York. A few years later, in 1965, he moves back to Michigan for a job with Learjet. And this was around the exact same time that Bill Lear was leading the charge of a new invention called 8-track tape. Apparently, Bill wanted him and his rich friends to be able to listen to music while they're flying around the world. This is exactly what planted the idea in Andre Blay's head about watching movies on tape. So after a little while at Learjet, Andre gets plucked by Dick Krause, who was one of the co-inventors of an 8-track tape, and they formed a tape duplication company called Stereodyne. Don't you love the way that sounds? Stereodyne. At that time, RCA was the only place able to make copies of tapes in the mid-'60s, so it seemed like a perfect business to get into. And so they start Stereodyne, and they are killing it, making tapes, copies of tapes, duplications of tapes. And almost immediately, Andre the Giant, Andre Blay, pitches the idea of videotape with, the visuals. Pitches that idea to Dick. And apparently Dick was like, nah. Was like, we got a good thing going. We don't need to, cock it up with any other weird ideas. So Andre left Stereodyne, and he went and founded Magnetic Video. Now, you got to understand, nobody was thinking like this. Sony, JVC, everybody that was making VCRs was looking at them as a time-shifting tool. That's it. That's what they were marketed as. That's what they sold them as. Here's a blank tape. Go record your favorite TV shows. Watch them whenever you feel like it. That was it. That was the idea of the VCR. It was a time-shifting tool. And we'll get into all of that with Sony at a different date. But right now, we're going to focus on Andre. Now, like I said before, there'd been a few attempts at a home video system in the early 70s. Again, some of those we're going to explore at another time. And in the late 70s, the most popular home movie system or format that was available, this was in the mid 70s, was you could get classic scenes of movies on 8mm film that ran a couple of minutes total. So for example, around the time that Variety was announcing that 20th Century Fox was putting their home video catalog available to buy in December of 1977, you could buy 8 minutes of Star Wars highlights on 8mm film. Get this. $5.97 for silent black and white footage, $14.47 for silent color footage, or for you big spenders out there, $22.88 would get you an 8-minute in color with sound footage of highlights of Star Wars. How about that, kids, huh? Merry Christmas to all. So, at the age of 32, in 1969, Andre Blay did two things. One, he enrolled in Michigan State University in their executive MBA program. And two, he founded Magnetic Video. A year later, he wrote his thesis on the future of consumer home video. And for the next 7 years, Magnetic Video struggled desperately to stay afloat. The company had 12 employees, 3 of which were management, and the rest were making copies of tapes. And at least 2 times, everybody was forced to take pay cuts. So they started out duplicating audio tapes and then eventually videotapes. In particular, corporate America began making the switch from training films to training videos. And the problem Andre found was that duplicating tapes is you're putting in all the work, taking all the risk, and you don't own any of the content. And if, say, Motown Records decides to use a different company service, you're cooked. And I tried to think if there was, I even looked it up, if there was a classic Motown song about cooking, but I don't know. I didn't see one. So anyway, that would have been sweet. It would have been sweet to put that in right there. So then, Andre has the bright idea of trying to figure out how to create the content that they are duplicating and then also selling. And then, so Magnetic Video, what they did was they set up a small studio and they started taping lectures by professors who were on the corporate speaking circuit. So for most of the 1970s, Magnetic Video was a provider of internally developed programming. Now, a few more major changes happened in the birth of home video that we'll discuss at a later time, but one of them being Sony releasing the very first Betamax VCR. This was in 1975. Huge moment. But the tapes weren't very long, and the machines were really expensive. Really. expensive. Get this, the first model in 1975 cost, they say, between $2,000 and $2,500, and that's 1975 money. 50 years later, that's $15,000 in 2025 money. But things started heading in the right direction for our dear Andre the Giant. JVC, the next year, developed their VHS format, and they were direct rivals with Sony's Betamax. And that same year, 76, JVC released their first model VCR, which retailed for around $1,000, even a little bit less in some markets. So the machines were starting to get more affordable. They were still high-end luxury items, but they were getting more affordable. And then the other big thing that happened was VHS tapes and Betamax tapes were both now 2 hours long. And this was when Andre felt like, okay, time's right. He's going to make his move into movies. So what did he do? He did what any nerd with a big idea would do. He went to the library. So he goes to the Farmington Hill Public Library, and that is where Andre got the mailing addresses to all the major movie studios, and he proceeded to send them all cold, unsolicited letters, pitching them his idea and offering magnetic video services. Now, as the author James Lardner, who wrote the book Hollywood, the Japanese, and the VCR Wars, as he so eloquently put in his book, studio executives don't usually get too excited about letters from people they've never heard of, who run companies they've never heard of, in cities they've never heard of. And that's exactly what happened to Andre. I should mention Lardner's book is by the way fantastic, and it'll probably come up a lot more as we continue doing these history segments on the pod. And really, I've been trying to do as much research as I can. Any book I've found, any book about the history of home video, videotapes, VCRs, is going to mention, or at least touch on, Andre Blay and magnetic video. But the bulk of what I'm discussing here, luckily enough, Andre Blay wrote about autobiography himself. It's a great book. It's called Pre-Recorded History. That was published in 2010, about less than a decade before Andre Blay passed away. So the bulk of what I'm talking about, I gotta attribute that to his autobiography. Anyway, James Lardner was right, and Andre only heard back from 2 studios. Okay, one letter was from MGM, and MGM said that while they might possibly, maybe, perhaps be interested in one day considering exploring the potential of maybe putting their movies hypothetically on videotape, theoretically, they definitely weren't interested in doing it right now, and they certainly weren't interested in doing it with Andre Blay. So thanks, but no thanks. Go fuck yourself. And to think all they had to do was say nothing. The other studio that responded was 20th Century Fox, and they were definitely interested. 20th Century Fox was in an unusual spot. They were still reeling from runaway costs of some notorious over-budget productions.
Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra, Siren of the Nile. Her stunning beauty and notorious intrigue turned the tide of civilization.
And she turned the tide at 20th Century Fox, too. Eventually, they recouped the money that they had spent on Cleopatra, barely. Apparently, by selling the TV rights to ABC was what put them over the edge. But over the next few years, Fox was still scrambling to figure out its next big hit, its next big move, and both came in 1977. The hit was George Lucas's Star Wars, and the move was getting into home video. Now, at this time, RCA was developing a video disc machine, which is another story for another time, but they had already approached 20th Century Fox about licensing their pictures to put on disc, and Fox agreed to license RCA about 100 films at $5,000 a piece. And this was a great deal for Fox because they were diversifying into a new market while letting somebody else take all the risk. And in fact, it was also a great deal for Andre Blay because the RCA deal worked to clear some of the hurdles. And Fox was already in a very receptive frame of mind about this idea of home video. Plus, Andre didn't care about movie discs. He only wanted to put them on video cassette. And RCA was still developing their idea, and they wouldn't be finished for several years. And in fact, it was like a decade-long effort developing what became the capacitance electronic disc, the CED, and it would wind up being a major factor in RCA going out of business entirely. Anyway, so the letter arrived saying that Andre wanted to license Fox movies for the VCR and 20th Century Fox. They were quick to invite Andre to come on out to Hollywood. So he met with a guy named Steve Roberts. And Steve apparently found that Andre knew what he was talking about. He seemed like he had a head on his shoulders and he had a plan. And so Steve was very forthcoming with Andre. Apparently, Steve didn't think RCA was ever going to finish developing their video disc. But he liked the idea of videotape. And it was clear that videotape was already, they had hit the ground running between Betamax and VHS. And it was, in his mind, clearly poised to change the way people consumed movies forever. And the studios were already dealing with the problem of bootleg copies of their movies on video. So he figured we might as well just beat them at their own game. Plus, the way that Steve Roberts saw it, Fox was only going to license movies that viewers could already watch on TV anyway. And Andre and Magnetic Video were going to assume all of the risk. So he's like, this is great. Let's just get into it. So the two men shook hands. He told Andre, come back to LA with your legal team and we'll negotiate a deal. And Andre's like, sounds great. We'll do lunch. See you soon, babe. The only problem was Andre didn't have a legal team. What he did have was a frat buddy named Chuck, who was a divorce attorney. So Andre the Giant, he flies back to LA with Chuck, and these two guys, they sit down to negotiate the terms of the deal with a team, you can imagine, of just slick 20th Century Fox attorneys in a giant boardroom. And then the negotiations went on for the better part of a year, well into summer of 1977. So apparently the negotiations consisted mainly of Fox offering them a terrible deal, Andre and Chuck saying, this is a terrible deal, Fox saying, well, take it or leave it, and then Andre and Chuck saying, sold. So eventually the two men came to the same conclusion. This was a terrible fucking deal. But they had no legs to stand on. So it boiled down to this. Fox offered Andre, well, at first they offered them the same list of 100 movies that they'd offer RCA at the same price. And Andre was like, well, I can't afford that. What about 50 movies? So Fox agreed. And the deal they signed said that Andre would pay Fox a $300,000 advance, plus a minimum of $500,000 a year against a royalty of $7.50 per tape. Magnetic Video would have non-exclusive rights. All the movies would have to have already run on network TV, and only movies from 1972 and before. And yet, it was a historic deal. Andre went back to Michigan to get to work. Now, no one had the kind of equipment they needed to produce mass copies of commercial tapes. Like, apparently, at Magnetic Video, just making 50 tapes in a week was a ton. So they had to build a factory from scratch to start making 20,000 tapes a month. Now, the other problem was the technology to duplicate a VHS or a Betamax at high speeds, that didn't exist yet. They could do it with audio tapes, but they couldn't do it with videotapes yet. So everything was dubbed in real time. If a 2-hour movie took 2 hours to copy. So for the rest of the summer, all the way until they launched in October 1977, Magnetic Video had 200 VCRs running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Andre, now keep in mind, Andre the Giant is taking a huge gamble here. He went to the bank to borrow money to pay Fox. He went back to the bank to borrow money to build this new factory. And he was about to go back to the bank for one more huge loan in order to run ads in TV Guide. So the way he figured it, the holiday season was fast approaching, and the last piece of the puzzle he needed to fill in was, where in the royal blue hell are they going to sell these videotapes? Video stores didn't exist. You know, record stores seemed like a possible fit, but it might be awkward. The electronic stores where they sold the equipment and the VCRs, that would probably work, but like Andre was worried, you know, he needed to make some of that money back, and he needed to start making that money back immediately. And he didn't want to rely on retailers who might not, you know, they'd be uncertain. He couldn't rely on them. They weren't familiar with the new technology. I mean, it was a whole thing. So here's what Andre did. He launched the Video Club of America. This was a direct-to-consumer mail delivery service, so people could buy movies right from the source. And just in the nick of time, around Thanksgiving 1977, this guy paid for a giant double-page spread ad in TV Guide, nationally. I can't even imagine how much this cost. And friend of the show, fellow movie collector, and undoubtedly future guest of the show, comedian Ken Reed, who has a fantastic podcast called The TV Guidance Counselor, which is a podcast about TV Guide. Ken has an extensive collection of TV Guide issues. I messaged Ken to see if he would check some of his, late November 1977 issues of TV Guide. And sure enough, he found it, and he sent me a copy of the ad. It says, 50 magnificent movies you can show anytime on your own TV. I just love the idea of that being like, I don't know, maybe I'm just old. That's still crazy to me. It's not the world we live in anymore, that it being crazy, but anyway. Now, superb video cassettes from the Video Movie Club of America bring a world of entertainment right into your home. And it runs down the idea, because they were selling for retail, like Variety said, for $50. But so Andre has, you can sign up for the club for $10, and then you will be able to purchase most of these movies for as little as $39.95. Own them, show them, build your own private collection at 20% less the regular retail price. So he's offering people a deal, and he's just trying to, get a hold of as many people as he can, because at this point there weren't a ton of people who own VCRs in North America at this time, but the ad ran, and this thing was a hit. Also, the 50 movies that they offered, I'm not going to read off all the movies, but let's see. French Connection, huge. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. The old... Cleopatra. How perfect is that, Cleopatra? The Hustler, Hello Dolly, which I have, actually. It doesn't play too great, but I do have an original VHS of Hello Dolly. And as a matter of fact, it's on 2 tapes. And I think I only have tape 1. This was at an estate sale, and somebody was just pulling, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not going to watch it. I don't know. I get upset. But the person grabbed tape 2, but not tape 1. And I'm like, you work for the props department for a movie production company or something. You're not going to watch these. I digress. What else? The Grapes of Wrath, Valley of the Dolls. Let's see. The King and I. How Green Was My Valley, Best Picture winner. See, what Andre decided to do is he went through the list of 100 movies, and he knew he was only going to pick 50, so he just looked up which of these made the most money, and that was it. That was the only criteria he used on picking the movies. He wasn't looking for, what are the best ones. Dr. Dolittle, Fantastic Voyage, The Day the Earth Stood Still, 7 Year Itch. I think 7 Year Itch is very underrated. Oh, and MASH. Oh, and Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Hello. But MASH I also own on, which has to make it the oldest. That and Hello Dolly are the oldest videotapes, commercially released videotapes that I own. And each Magnetic Video movie at this time opened with this announcement.
By special arrangement with 20th Century Fox, Magnetic Video Corporation is proud to offer the following major motion picture on video cassette.
So it was a hit. It was a hit, obviously. Videotapes were a hit. Hey, if you're listening to this podcast, maybe you already know, but videotapes were a major hit. Hot take. Breaking news. Videotapes were a hit. What's even crazier is apparently when Magnetic Video surveyed the people who'd signed up and sent in the coupon from TV Guide and whatnot, less than half, owned VCRs. People are crazy. So by 1978, Magnetic Video was making deals with Viacom, a couple other companies to distribute content on video, and immediately other studios followed suit. Columbia starts a home video distribution wing, but they produced it on their own. They were not using an outside company like Magnetic Video, like Fox was using with Andre. Paramount and Warner Brothers soon followed. And, well, apparently Warner Brothers started a home video division in 1978, but it doesn't look like there's any record of anything being commercially available until 1980. So, and by then, everybody had a skin in the game in 1980. And MGM, God bless them, they finally decided to form a home video partnership with CBS. So good for them. Oh, good for you. You did it, MGM. You did it. And if you don't know, Star Wars was a big hit for 20th Century Fox and for Alec Guinness. So with the money, the profits from Star Wars, Fox, the next year, they just go ahead and they buy out Andre Blay, and they take control of Magnetic Video for just over $7 million. So how about that, kids? You see what you can accomplish, kids, when just going to the library, writing some letters. So Fox kept Andre on for a while. He was even like a little bit of the public face of the home video division for Magnetic Video. He did quite a bit of press. I found quite a few newspaper interviews with him, one or two like television interviews with him. But I don't know. He, by all accounts, he didn't enjoy the way Fox ran things. And he eventually, in 81 or 82, he left his baby behind. And also MGM broke up with CBS. And then Fox and CBS formed one of my favorite VHS labels, CBS Fox. But anyway, as for Andre the Giant, he went on to form Blay Video and acquired the home video rights of like 100 movies. I'm not sure which. I'd be interested to get my hands on some of those. And Blay Video even released something called New Look, a video magazine for men featuring Tamara, the world's first video centerfold. This is, it was supposed to be a video magazine. It was like Playboy. They only made one issue. I managed to track down a copy of it on Laserdisc, ironically, of all things. And it's like an issue of Playboy, but on video cassette. It's like a couple of really, honestly, really awkward, like nude photo shoot type things. Those seem to all be directed by Francis Giacobetti. And then it's mixed in with interviews with Bob Rafelson, who directed Five Easy Pieces, and Francis Ford Coppola. Honestly, the most interesting thing is the interview with Francis Ford Coppola.
I think I'm a very childlike person. I guess they use childlike when it's okay and childish when it's bad. So, but I call myself childlike. I remember being very impressed by life when I was a child. I took it all to heart, as I would imagine most people, and I remember every detail of it, and it was better than the grown-up world. I think I try to keep a positive attitude towards what's going to happen. Whatever you could tell me tomorrow that the earthquake came and knocked down 3/4 of the studio and the negative was lost and this and that, and I'll have another idea, an hour later as what we should do. And that to me is the fun of it.
But alas, there was no issue 2. So Andre went on to Embassy Pictures, and he became the CEO of their home entertainment division. He even executive produced a bunch of movies, such as the 1988 remake of The Blob, John Carpenter's The Prince of Darkness, as well as...
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
That's right, John Carpenter's immortal classic, They Live, starring Rowdy Piper. This is a Video Garage favorite and a Saturday wrestling tape staple. As though Andre wasn't already a big enough legend, he produced They Live. So there you have it, Andre Blay, Andre the Giant, father of home video, man who changed the world, the man who made VHS Tapes Magic. Shout out to Andre. That's one of me and Vince, we always talk about, because he's a big sneakerhead. I don't know if you know this about Vince. He's like...
With the Dan Aykroyd, Ben Kingsley vehicle or sneakers?
It's your mother.
That's a good movie. It's a fun movie.
That is a fun movie. The 4K was pretty good. I think Kino put it out. He's with sneakers the way we are with movies.
Didn't know that. Yeah, I got to start complimenting him more. I never look at people's shoes.
How often do you look at a man's shoes?
They say it's one of the first things, if not the first thing, a woman will look at in a man. I have never in my life looked below someone's waist in a non-sexual capacity.
Except to make sure they weren't hard during Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, exactly.
And we often talk about the moment that broke our brains. And he says that there was a particular, Air Jordan, 4 or 6 or what, I don't know.
Yeah.
That he couldn't get. And he's like, and that was the moment that, it broke my brain.
Sure.
And so I think for me was much younger, and this was our first VCR, and I remember getting it, and we didn't quite understand how to use it.
Yeah.
And we were trying to tape record Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas off of TV, and it was one of those moments you hit record, and I go to bed. All I see is the very beginning with Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
And when I got up the next morning, I pressed play on the tape, and it was static, and we hadn't recorded it correctly.
Oh, I got a lot of those memories of like, no.
Oh.
You ever have one where you're supposed to record something for somebody else and you don't, and they like pretty much don't forgive you? That was my dad a lot of the time.
brutal.
He still
Or
brings stuff up.
I can't think of anything specific. Like your dad is a hard case, Pat.
I know.
Or if you're recording something and it recorded, you're
Yeah.
watching it, and then someone didn't know, and they start changing the channel, and you
Yep. Oh,
are
yeah.
watching them flip channels on the tape.
People, look, I fully understand people, 30, 20 and under who don't even understand recording stuff off television.
Right.
Because I've forgotten it. When you just said that right now, I had this wave of nostalgia, but I never even think about that happening in my life.
Yeah.
But it was such a huge part up through like Seinfeld finale, I'd say. 99 was, when everything seemed to start changing. Maybe it was Y2K. I don't know. But like Seinfeld finale, I remember being like, I will treasure this recording of this forever.
Yeah.
And then a year later, it was like, oh no, we got DVDs of every season. I can burn these.
I tell you what's funny is when Letterman did his farewell show, because of who I am, I recorded it on a DVD. I had the
Okay.
DVD-R, right?
Yeah.
And the next day, I'd say 10 out of 10 people were posting online.
Yeah.
My DVR fucked me. I didn't know that the show was going to be, 90 minutes or it was 75 minutes, whatever it was. Everybody missed, who didn't watch it live, missed that last few minutes of the show. And I was like, this is where the old physical media is still superior.
Always. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people I haven't talked to in 5 years, especially over the pandemic, but they would text and be like, hey, I need to watch X for X. I can't find it anywhere. And
Right.
I'd go, come on over. I got it. And yet we're fed this lie that streaming has everything you need. And it
It's
just doesn't.
preposterous. There's a guy, I'll send you the YouTube video about him. They used to call him Marvin of the movies. You ever heard of
Okay.
this guy?
No.
It's the exact same experience you just described. This is a guy who apparently in the 70s, his wife got ill and he had to stay home to care for her. And one of the things he decided to do was he got a VCR, and then he just started taping things and buying tapes, and he passed away. I actually met one of his sons at a storage unit sale where he's just selling off some of his dad's tapes.
Yeah.
And this guy, at last count, he was trying to catalog everything he had. He's like, well, it seems like I'm up to around 60,000 titles.
Okay.
And this was a guy who had apparently, like, stuff that was considered lost at a certain point, film serials, early silence, what have you. But even in the 70s, he tells stories about like getting calls from, and Leonard Maltin reinforced this. I saw an interview with him about it too, where he's like, actors, and you can imagine, studios were not keen on sending actors copies of their work. They just couldn't be bothered.
Right.
So people would call up this guy Marvin and be like, hey, do you have this particular movie? Like, I'm trying to, collect my own body of work, if that's possible.
Yeah.
And he tells a story about one time somebody called him up and was like, hey, do you have a copy of a movie called The Manchurian Candidate? And he's like, yeah, I absolutely do. So the person on the phone goes, yeah, Frank, he's got it. It was Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Couldn't get a copy of Manchurian Candidate
That's
from these
insane.
fucks.
That
I know.
is insane. Easy to find now. Much easier to find now. I have
No
two
shit.
two different versions of the Manchurian Candidate, both good.
It's something else. So so did you only work at a Blockbuster? Did you work at other video stores?
Yes, I worked at the same, Deerberg's, where I often rented movies. Deerberg's is a grocery chain in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted video store. The cashier job paid like $3 more an hour.
Uh-huh.
And as much as I wanted that, I was saving up for college, and I was like, I need to do the right thing here. But Blockbuster was a dream for me. I I even liked the outfit, the stupid blue and gold and all that. And very quickly I became store manager because not store manager, but what do you call it? Whatever, an assistant manager,
Uh-huh.
because when customers would come in, they right after I started working there, they would come in and say, "Hey, where's that Patrick guy? He recommended such and such to me, and I loved it." Because most of the time, I would size a person up, talk to them for a few minutes, and recommend exactly what they wanted to see, not imposing my taste. I had
Right.
exceptions to that,
Yeah.
but usually I could nail people pretty well, and they'd be like, "Dude, that movie, I'm so glad that's one of my favorite movies now, dude." So I was pretty popular there, and I loved talking to people about movies. I loved the job. I didn't mind cleaning because you're feather dusting movies. I was doing what I would want to be doing with my free time, walking the racks of a great video store.
Yeah.
They also let us play videos in we had to do those trailer tapes, which had 3 songs on them that you'd hear a million times. But after 8 p.m., you could play actual PG movies and enjoy them. And it was a dream for me. I eventually got fired, me and my buddy Mike, and I later found out from somebody who stayed on the payroll. The boss fully admitted that we got fired simply because we were making too much money. And Blockbuster was getting ready to start their downward spiral because people started suing about the late fees. You could have a $2.99 late fee for 180 days, and they'd send you to collections. So these people are coming in and like, my credit's fucked. Like, what's and start screaming at me. I'm like, I agree with you that that's insane. And these lawsuits started becoming a big problem for Blockbuster. It was 180 days straight to collections, no questions asked. So if you're a guy who rents twice a year, you
Yeah.
don't even think about it. So we get a lot of upset people, and I got fired for that reason. I was told it was because I was stealing. And I would say the reason they gave me is I was in college at this time, a full-time college student, and we were allowed 5 free rentals a week. And let's say the movies are due at noon on a Tuesday, and I'm in class, but I'm working at 5. I'd call my buddy Mike, who'd be working, and say, "Hey, could you check in my movies and I'll bring them in at 5?" And then 100% of the time, I would bring in the movies when I worked at 5.
Mm-hmm.
The store manager would have us do this weekly, constantly. "Hey, I'm not going to be in until my shift. Can you check these in?" But then that's what we got fired for. So we're sitting in the office with him like, "But you do this. Not only have you said this is okay, you do it. I've done it for you." And we got fired, and it was very suspicious, and then we found out why. So I have no sympathy for Blockbuster getting destroyed by Netflix, also because they were doing the same thing to other mom and pops.
Oh, yeah.
They were wiping them out. And they had an opportunity. A lot of people forget this or never even knew it happened, but they had Blockbuster Select, I want to say, which was their home delivery system, their Netflix, where you could rent in-store or Netflix style watch it in your home. Do you remember that?
I do.
So they were a viable competitor, except they had it one better because you could go to the store. You could have it instantly. You didn't have to wait for the mail. And still they lost. And someday there'll be an excellent documentary about what went down. There's been a couple that are okay, but not quite good enough, in my opinion. But it's a fascinating story for sure.
What was it like getting hired at Blockbuster? Was it instant, like a part-time job, or like did they ask you questions about movies or anything? Or
Yes, I was working 40 hours a week ish.
Really?
The shifts were 9 to 5 or 5 to midnight. We closed at midnight 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Also, what was frustrating about Blockbuster is they never closed. Christmas Day they were open. So like somebody's got to work it.
Fuck.
And in my later years, meaning 17, 18 years old, I just wanted to get away from my family, and I would be like, sure, I'll work it. But yeah, I don't remember the questions being super intensive, but I remember me talking a lot about my passion for movies. And I think that the average Blockbuster applicant is just like, I need some extra money. And I was like, the thing about Scorsese, whatever, like I clearly had a passion for it.
Uh-huh.
And I just liked that was a home for that. It really was doing what you love for a living, except it doesn't pay. I mean, it was even when I got fired, I was making $8.25 an hour. outrageous.
And what
So
year is this?
this would have been like 2001, something like
Yeah.
that. When I first started, it was $5.75, and then the managerial bumped it up. But it wasn't too bad, like you got to clean a bathroom, but how many people are taking a dump at Blockbuster? Like you got to have some stomach issues.
I can't even believe your Blockbuster had a bathroom.
Yeah, we did.
That's wild. I've never
I
even
think
thought of that.
I think probably more people had sex in it than went to the bathroom in it.
Really?
Big couple hangout where you'd be like kind of knock on the door like, "Come on, guys." A lot of that. But
No shit.
that was kind of the norm then. I walked in on a lot of people doing it in cars and stuff in my day. You'd see it a lot more. I don't know why that is, but
Making it a Blockbuster night, huh?
exactly.
What?
We
So
were
what
all
years?
we had nights on a Friday night or a Saturday night, especially when something like Titanic would come out.
Yeah.
That line would be 40 people deep at a Blockbuster.
Really? Was that like the big, like in your time there? That was the movie that kind of broke.
That's one I certainly remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched Casino the other night on 4K with my girlfriend, and he goes, I'm going to say Jewish person instead of the slur. It's not great either way. And he goes, we might have to throw a Jewish person out of Las Vegas or whatever. That cowboy says it.
Oh yeah.
And that was the line that ended tape 1. Like the cliffhanger was ended on a slur. And it was like, we can't wait to come back and see if he actually kicks this Jewish person out of Las Vegas. But that was big. I mean, the 2 tape thing, talk about interrupting your enjoyment of a movie. Like Titanic was one. Even Meet Joe Black was spread across 2 tapes.
That's right.
And then the bulkiness of those, they wouldn't fit in the slot even to get in. So you had people separating them. They were Velcroed or rubber banded together. And then you'd have to piece together the right part 1 with the right part 2 and stuff. But I liked all that stuff. Oh, a guy with OCD who loves movies, Blockbuster is your dream job for sure.
What were some of the and what year you started there?
Geez, well, the Titanic would have dropped on video about 99. I feel like I was there something like 99 through 02 or 98 through 02 or something.
That's got to be like the height. That's got to be like, the apex of Blockbuster's powers, right?
It was the height and then starting to slip as I was leaving. Yeah, because they were clearly starting to struggle. But as with all places, it's greed. When you really look at why any place fails, especially nowadays, it's greed.
Of course. That's what I always say. I'm like, Blockbuster did it to themselves. I have no sympathy for Blockbuster at all.
For sure. Well, people would come in, like a harried mom with like 6 kids hanging off of her and, just looked like she hadn't slept in 5 days. And like, I'm trying to get the kids these 4 games and these $4 movies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd ring them up and I'd be like, it's $68. And I mean, the faces I got from these are like, what are you talking? These are dollar movies. And I'm like, the dollar movies went up to $2.99. Well, how much are the games now? Games are $5.99. What? $5.99? How many nights do I get them? The rest of my life? And boy, do people not know how to. I always, when I am angry in a moment, let's say I'm at an airport or something.
Yeah.
I always am able, no matter how angry or sleep deprived, I'm always able to go, it is not this person's fault. Unless they're being an asshole. 3/4 of the customers at Blockbuster were like, I don't know how many times I said, ma'am, I don't set the prices and I do not agree with them. Or I don't agree with the late fee either. I think it's insane. But that's what it is. And that's our policy. Then at some point, they stopped letting us credit people's late fees. So they'd come in and go, hey, I know I got a $17 late fee. You can see I've rented 2 movies here every day for the last 7 years. Can we forgive it? And I'd go, absolutely. And then they started going, no, we're not going to let you do that anymore. So you try to like bargain with somebody or get them to stop yelling at you, but you have no options. You just have to sit there and absorb it because you can't help them. They wouldn't let you.
Wow. Is that
they became too strict and the prices got too high for what the experience was ultimately.
Was that the worst part of working there, was having to be, the bearer of bad news and somehow.
Yes, I can't. I still to this day, as a 44-year-old man, cannot tolerate conflict, and I get shaky, and my voice starts shaking, and every time I would be like, "Am I going to start crying here in Blockbuster?" I just can't take it.
Yeah.
When somebody is yelling at me, it takes me back to being a kid being yelled at for no reason and not knowing how to stop it. Now I'd like to think I would be like, how about you shut the fuck up? I have no patience for people. And you think at the time, because they make you believe this, that if you were to talk back to somebody, they won't recommend you for your next $6 an hour job. And you're scared of that. But
Right.
eventually, when you grow up, you realize, like, you should have just said, shut the fuck up. It's not my policy. Leave me alone, Anyway.
You mentioned the return slot. Did they ever shove like weird shit into the return slot, or like?
Well, there was a citywide, meaning like all Missouri stores. I remember getting a notice that they had found a used condom, and it was basically like what to do in that situation, which is
So
like
this got all the way up to corporate, and they're like, "We need a policy now."
I well imagine a 16-year-old girl working there and grabbing that by mistake, and
Yeah.
At that time, here's my guess of what that girl thought: I'm going to get AIDS. Like we just
Probably.
didn't know. We
Right.
were stupid and we were misinformed,
Right.
and she probably way over. Look, can you overreact to touching a used condom? Not really, but she probably reacted strongly, and they were like, we need to tell them what to do if hazardous material gets on you and so forth. But other than that, no, I definitely would have a couple times somebody would like wrap a note in a rubber band, like this movie sucked or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, but nothing major. No. People would put home tapes in the wrong case, leading to some interesting stuff, like people turning in, home sex tapes and stuff like that. Not across my desk, but definitely like, wow, this does not look like Meet Joe Black, And people made mistakes for sure, but we had a guy we called one new porn, one old porn, and we'd write them as their name so that when you bring them up, you'd get a little chuckle. But this one guy, you'd bring him up, and his name in the system was one new porn, one old porn, and he would rent exactly that: one new, one old. He always rented a movie called Whore 2,
Oh yeah.
which was a favorite.
Yes.
But
Well, the first one is, I don't know.
He
about the
might as
second
well
one.
have been wearing a floor-length trench coat. He looked so much like the classic video store pervert. But he was a great customer, and we didn't have porn. Blockbuster always had, soft core, but
Yeah.
those were big renters there. And you'd also sort of wonder, why aren't you going an extra 2 minutes to Family Video and getting the real deal?
Did they rent NC-17 at your Blockbuster, or these are just hard R's?
Well, literally hard R's, and then they would like when Showgirls came out,
Right.
that was when it was kind of like, what are we going to do here? And usually the studio would release a unrated cut, and Blockbuster could carry unrated, but generally would not carry NC-17. No.
That's interesting. You know what? I was just watching, because the first movie Whore, that's Ken Russell. It's so
It is, yeah.
uncomfortable saying the name of that movie.
Yes.
Um,
But Whore 2, for some reason, makes it funny.
right.
The second whore,
That's something in college we rented at Belmont Video, which was near Fordham University. And that was a place where, that was a mom and pop, the kind of place where you could rent, UFC or Faces of Death, that type of.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh. And the two movies I remember us renting, it's so pathetic. Whore 2 was the first one. And it's a downer.
Oh, yeah.
It's a real downer.
Which makes it all the stranger that this guy kept renting it.
The other one we rented once was called Friend of the Family.
Familiar? I am familiar.
Are you familiar with that one?
Yes.
There's I believe she's an au pair or something. They hire this woman to work for them, and then she winds up having sex with every member of the family.
Is friend of the family Tweed? Shannon Tweed?
If you say so, I would believe you. Oh, you know what I have right in front of me because I have the Kino
No.
Cult.
1995. It's not her, but well, maybe I've seen Friend of the Family 2.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But yes, I saw a lot of those. Look, I'm not above it either. Every once in a while, one of my 5 free rentals would be one of these softcore joints for sure. I was 17, 18 years old.
Well, I think that's the other thing people don't appreciate of there being, not no internet, but not the internet we have now, or even the internet we had 10 years ago.
I didn't have it till deep college. Certainly not in my home. But I'm going to say this. The overwhelming abundance and easy access and like it's always there and present and available to you of porn definitely has affected the young men of America, probably the women of America too. It's made us worse, I would say, in almost every way. And there is something to be said about having to drive up, rent a porn, even if it's hardcore, filthy, disgusting.
Sure.
You rent it, you bring it home, you use it for what it's for, and you return it, which I always found gross. I would always like wash my hands upset. Oh, I have OCD, but I would wash my hands like Howie Mandel before and after using any of these tapes. But like, that was it. You didn't have it sitting there all the time unless you bought the tape, in which case eventually you'd tire of it. The ability to see any and everything, no matter how depraved at all times, is ultimately a bad thing for humanity. Can't be argued.
No. Inarguable.
Yeah. Whereas making a night of it, going up to your local video store and renting one because you and your wife are feeling amorous or whatever, there's something kind of sweet about it to me.
It's true.
Compared to what we did, what we did with it. Not you and me, but society.
You and me.
We're like, what's that Schwimmer movie, Breast Men? We're like the inventors of porn. You remember that one?
God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think they were the inventors of implants or something, but that was one I rented a lot too.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I also remember, I just saw the Yeahs in concert. I remember my copy of National Lampoon's Vacation, the original, which is rated R, but that was one my dad was like, "Oh yeah, it's Clark Griswold, baby," because he thought they were all as fun as Christmas and none of them went dirty. But there's a good long scene of Beverly D'Angelo in the shower topless, and
for no reason.
She's the mom in that movie.
It's insane.
You don't see anything of Christy Brinkley, the
sure
hot
don't.
model. So my tape, and it wasn't even a rental, it was my own home tape. That scene eventually nearly came off the spool. I had paused it so many times. And my dad, I remember watching it and like the tapes going and scrambling up. And I think he put it together that like, okay, all right. But that's something that happened too. I mean, those tapes don't stay good forever the way that a Blu-ray is supposed to anyway.
Right.
So, yeah.
Do you know Nick Stevens?
Never heard the name, no.
He's a very funny guy. He was a New York guy. He's from
comedian?
Boston. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Does a did you ever
I
hear
didn't mean to say never heard the name like he's a nobody. I just meant I don't know who he is.
No, you just don't know him.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard of the Shark Show. That was a kind of a popular underground show that we all performed at in New York. Anyway, he does a I don't know why I'm reading his LinkedIn. He does a like a Boston sports guy character named Fitzy.
Yeah.
Point I bring him up is we were talking about this very same phenomenon, and their copy of The Terminator was all tracking out in that sex scene, and he and his brother didn't.
Is there
realize.
nudity in The Terminator?
You see, yeah, when Linda Hamilton and Michael Biehn conceive John Connor.
I'll be damned. I don't remember that. Okay.
You see her bare breasts for
sure. I usually have a photographic memory for that stuff, and I don't remember that. I thought you were talking about Arnold's ass.
Well, I'm here to tell you. Also, he flops a little bit when
He does.
When he's deep in the distance.
He does.
On his way to beat up the punk rockers. You can see him flopping.
Sure.
Which begs the question, why would a Terminator need a cock and balls?
Valid. Very valid.
So him and his brother didn't they kind of years later realized, oh my God, we were both pausing it and ruining this tape
Yeah.
on our own time.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I had a little sister. If I had had a little brother, you wind up being able to blame a lot on them.
Oh, sure.
I remember, I don't even know how appropriate it is, but it was one of my very favorite tweets of all time before Twitter went under. It's by this guy named the Nardvark, Brian Donaldson, who was a Fallon writer, I believe, and very funny joke writer. But it was like, I'm going to get it wrong, but the gist of it was, I love that the premise of the original Terminator is the fate of humanity rests on a woman raw dogging a stranger at the height of the AIDS crisis. I always just love that. Yeah, very funny.
Brilliant.
And I'm gonna watch the Terminator today and pause it. I forgot about that sex scene.
Do you have the 4K?
I do.
It looks great.
When I watched the Terminator, over COVID, I guess, on 4K, what I noticed was that it looked Terminator 2 looks beautiful, but
yeah,
that scene with the eye,
oh my God,
in Terminator does not look great in 4K because it sometimes, and you know it when you see it, the special effect was designed for a lower resolution so that they could get away with it. Mm-hmm. So 4K sometimes exposes some shoddy work, which is not really their fault. Like in Casino, when they replace, I just watched it, that's why it's on my mind, but when they replaced De Niro with the dummy before the car blows up, it's just for a fraction of a second. But in 4K, they might as well walk in a mannequin, set it in the seat. It's so obvious, and I never noticed it before.
Oh, how funny. I remember noticing that at the time. But now when I watch it, I don't know if this is the case, but I tend to feel like I chalk it up as I enjoy it as it being an aesthetic choice.
Oh, okay.
Because Scorsese is like Tarantino. He makes movies about movies. So it's like you would want that shitty looking dummy before the explosion.
To me, the thing that I love Casino.
Yeah.
And the 4K looks gorgeous. It looks better than the Goodfellas 4K. But the scene where Pesci beats Don Rickles with the phone and then pushes him on the ground, and you're kind of like, oh God, it's Don Rickles, but also he's 70 years old. So you're like, sure. Jesus Christ. And he falls and he lands face down. And then I think probably the audience thought he was dead because Joe Pesci's killed everybody else. So they add in this scene that couldn't have been supposed to be in the movie. But they show you Rickles rolled over and he's doing like tongue out of his mouth, X's over his eyes, dead guy acting. And you're like, oh no, it looks so corny and cheesy. And I'm sure they had a good laugh about it, but then wound up having to use it because the test audiences were like, but they killed Don Rickles. So they had to roll him over and show that he's still breathing. But it always makes me laugh because he's doing like Three Stooges dead acting.
Yeah. Oh God, that's beautiful. I wanted to know, did you make any friends that rent, like customers? Did you have any favorite customers or?
You know what? Not really, but the one thing I've neglected to mention is that everyone other than our store manager, who was kind of a prick that worked there, we were all best friends. Some formed through 8-hour shifts together.
Sure.
But many of them we went into the job as really close friends with very aligned musical and film interests. And we were it was the best because you'd always be paired with one other person, almost like it was like a Lethal Weapon, cop partner scenario. And you gotta like them to work for 8 hours. And I loved everybody I work with, and they're 90% of them still close friends of mine to this day.
Oh, that's tremendous.
So yeah, we didn't really have time to make new friends, but it was always really fun for that reason, for sure.
Did you guys at your store have the gimmick where it's like, here's Pat's picks and Matt's picks?
Tragically, they never let us do it, and I begged to do it. The kid and I like movies. It's very important to him too, and they eventually let him do it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let. I love that Seinfeld where they got the jeans picks.
Oh my God, Gene is trash.
Yeah. But maybe our store just didn't allow it. They certainly never let us do it, which is like, why not? It's
so
and it's only
fun.
become worse, but it's this thing of corporations where they do not want
Yeah.
you to showcase any individuality, any personality. You're part of a team. It's why they put you in the uniform and you have to tuck it in, you have to wear it a certain way. It's all control. But that always bothered me, which is why I think I went so out of my way to recommend things.
That's how I discovered Stanley Kubrick, because at the Major Video they had, like, I knew what The Shining was.
Yeah.
I knew that there was this horror movie with Jack Nicholson, and he chops down the door.
Right.
And I remember hearing this is the scariest movie. And all I knew about, I didn't know what Clockwork Orange was, but I knew the image of, Alex with the one eyelash, and
Sure.
when Bart Simpson was dressed as that character on a Halloween episode.
Yeah.
So when I saw they had a display or something where it was just like, Stanley Kubrick. And when I saw that the guy who directed The Shining directed that movie with the eyelash thing, I was like beyond curious. Just how is this possible? Who is this guy,
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Oh, did you freeze?
Stuff like that. What's that?
I think we might have frozen for a second. That's all. Just start that thought again.
Yeah, we would do that sometimes at Blockbuster, where it would have a Steven Spielberg section or stuff like that. But for the most part, it was exactly how you would think it would be. It was comedy, drama, sci-fi, and all that. We had special interest, which was kind of a catch-all, which would have like teach you how to have sex videos, but it would also have Dorf on golf, like just sort of anything that's not a genre would be here,
Can I tell you, buddy? Somebody in Warren, Rhode Island, just sent me a package which features Dorf.
Wow.
On golf.
That specific tape
went
out of Blockbuster. It was never in stock.
Shut up.
That was one of our most popular catalog titles for sure.
What were some of the others?
Or two. No, I mean it's the movies that have become classics. It's always like that was kind of fun too. You'd be like, boy, this movie has really found its cult. It's found its following. And there were a lot of movies like that. But now they're part of the curriculum or whatever you want to call it. They found their way. Does that happen as much nowadays? I guess you can stumble upon stuff in streaming, but it certainly felt more fun in a video store setting to see that happen.
Buddy, do you want to feel old?
Not really.
I'm sure you don't, but here it comes. I was scrolling through my feed on TikTok, and this one woman, she didn't even look like she was like, I hate to size up somebody and guess their age, but she didn't seem all that young, but she was going off about, how did you guys never tell me about this Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie? It's incredible. I'm going to watch the second one tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was really twisted the knife.
I have learned to view that as what an awesome opportunity for her.
You know what? That's the way I do it too, because sometimes people in my comments, they get a little shitty with each other where it's like, how do you not towards me? Yeah. Somebody who's like, oh my God, I don't know this movie. That sounds amazing. And how do you not know this movie? And I'm like, why don't we look at this as we get to give this gift to younger people, not you're a fucking idiot.
That can only come with time and maturity. When I was married, and when I look back at dating my wife early on, I'm regretful to how many times I would be like, what? You haven't seen blank? And she's like, no, I missed it. I didn't spend every weekend in video stores, whatever. And now when I date, when somebody says, no, I haven't seen that, it is, oh, I can't wait to show that to you, which is such a better way to be, Also, I really struggle to not be always showing you something that I loved. And instead, what do you like? Because when it's an obsession, you can start to just always be forcing somebody to watch stuff that maybe they're not even into,
because I assume there was also pro wrestling in the special interests section at your
Absolutely,
Blockbuster.
yes.
And as a big wrestling fan, or even like as a deadhead or a fish head, I'll sometimes get asked, how do I get my wife, partner, husband, whoever into pro wrestling or into fish? And my response has very quickly become, why don't you check out something they're into?
Yeah, yeah. The correct answer is you don't have to.
Right.
Now in your case, if wrestling is a big part of your life, you'd like your wife to at least have a passing interest in it.
Sure.
But you can't force somebody to like
No.
something they're not into. And yeah, it just
and
comes with time.
Glennis's exact quote regarding wrestling to me
Yeah.
is, Matt, I tried.
Look, that's my response about wrestling. I'm not into it,
Right.
So it's when Joe was still here, or you and Vince, and hey, we're watching WrestleMania tonight, I would be torn between wanting to hang with my friends,
Right.
but also knowing I would not have fun for 8 hours. I'm just not into it. But
it's a good hang, though.
it is. I always had fun, but it's just I would say by the end of my tenure at Blockbuster, the biggest renters, more than movies, were wrestling stuff and games. Games was starting to overtake the movie rentals.
Yeah, that was an interesting shift. I remember the first time renting like a Nintendo game, and that specific Nintendo rental box, that little clear plastic thing. It might have even had the Nintendo, caked on it, that the logo.
Yeah.
That was an experience.
Well, yeah, we had the little thing on the installed in the countertop where you could unlock it for the customer, which always felt kind of fun.
Oh yeah.
But is there, I'm not a gamer at all, is there any way now to rent a game and test it out, or do you just have to buy? It seems like the game manufacturers should have realized that you're definitely going to make more money if people can't test it and find out that the game sucks.
I think the closest there is you can do, it's kind of like the streaming model. You can subscribe, and there's certain games that are there that are available.
Yeah.
With the you could just download it, and then when it's not available anymore, you still have it. But I mostly play games that Jack is interested in, so I have, I've dipped my toes into the Roblox, the Minecrafts, the Fortnites, and and whatnot. I do enjoy. I started playing this game called DayZ, where it's post-apocalyptic, it's survival. There are some zombies here and there, but really, it's what got me into it was watching clips of people playing it online.
Yeah,
because there's other players playing. It's there's probably like 40 or 50 other actual people in this world or town, and you're just trying to survive. Like, you're literally, every time I've played, I either starve to death or I haven't consumed enough water, and the elements kill me. But watching some of these clips of people interacting with each other is the height of comedy. It's it is really entertaining.
I used just like Halo when I was 20 years old, and seeing how worked up my friends would get. I just recognized that as a guy with a lot of vices in my life,
right,
as something I don't need to get involved in. I had a friend whose sister became such a gamer that, like, she was unrecognizable. It was like the World of Warcraft South Park deal.
Honestly, Glennis is that way. She's like, she avoids video games because she gets hooked in big time. I remember when I first got a what was not the Stitch, the Switch, whatever Nintendo had before that. I don't know. It was the one you told the story about, like, with the Super Mario Galaxy, that game.
I played Mario World on Wii, I think, and it did
Wii.
nothing else for a week, and I was like, never again.
Yeah,
I lost a week of my life.
That was her. I remember, and this is when we were still dating, but we lived together.
Yeah,
I would wake up. Usually she, sleeps in. I would wake up and be like, "Where the fuck is she?" She's already in there playing.
Yeah,
and she would play the game till she beats it, and then as soon as she beat it, she was like, "Okay, I cannot play a video game again for a while. It was almost like out of King of Kong. She played a game that we had called Minecraft Dungeons. And I don't know if our game was bad or if it was just a kill screen, but like she got to a certain point and she's like, and then that's it. The game just stops working.
That's got to be frustrating.
She
Although maybe it
done.
was a sign from the heavens. I mean,
I think
it's an
so.
addiction like anything else. It's no
Yeah.
different than drugs, alcohol, whatever.
Sure.
But I have a friend too whose younger brother missed his mom's I Beat breast cancer party.
Oh my God.
And they're texting and he was a World of Warcraft kid. They're texting and calling and begging and like, what please, if I come over there and you're playing this game, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. And that's what he was doing. He's not on silent. He's seeing all the texts come in. He's just like, I'm sorry, I'm here, you know? And I guarantee if you talk to him about that now, he would say, yeah, I had a huge, severe problem, you know, and you don't realize it in the moment. You're just, it's every addiction. You don't realize it till it's too late.
Buddy, I mean, there's 12 steps for everything. And for video games too. I've been in places where somebody's like, yeah, and this is my son, and he's 5 months off video games. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Fuck.
A little chip. Yeah. Chip with Luigi on it. It's a 5 years.
Well, one other thing I've always been curious about or maybe with just your experience with Blockbuster was it totally a corporate mandate of these are the movies that are coming in this month? Could you guys order anything? Like, was there any opportunity to be like, we should have this movie in the store?
You could order something that you were going to buy through this massive Blockbuster catalog.
Really?
You couldn't really order something that you were going to rent out to somebody. Now, I didn't realize this for a while, but I was talking at Blockbuster one day about this cartoon that I thought was a Mandela effect thing. I've never met anybody who remembers it. And it was a blue dog named Foofer. And
okay. Yeah.
I kept saying, like, you know, it was part of that Heathcliff Garfield craze, but it was definitely like third tier. It never caught on.
Yeah.
Marmaduke, whatever. But his name was Foofer. It was my prime cartoon watching days. I used to watch it and enjoy it. And I'm like, no one's ever remembered this. Usually you bring up a cartoon and 10 guys go, oh, yeah, I watched that.
Yeah.
But I thought maybe I had imagined it. And I looked in their massive catalog and saw a Foofer VHS for like way too much, $29.99 or something.
Yeah.
I ordered it. They shipped it to me. I put it in. I was like, oh, yeah, this sucks, but at least I know it exists, whatever. But you could do that. You couldn't say, I think the store needs a copy of X or whatever. They wouldn't let you do that. Because usually if you're going to purchase a copy to rent, it would be $100 or something.
Oh, yeah, sure. Was it?
Which makes sense because you're going to make
course.
a lot more off it.
Was it on the computer or was there an actual book with
book?
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it like a phone book?
Yes. Yeah. And it probably couldn't have been every movie ever made, but it was like, if you want any of this, here's how much it costs. Yeah.
Wow. I wonder if there are copies of those out there somewhere. There must be, right?
I wouldn't even know what it was called, but or even if it was Blockbuster specific. It didn't. I don't think it was. I think it was just a big book of stuff. Like I don't know if you've ever ordered anything from Hamilton Book.
Oh, sure, yeah.
They do really cheap Blu-rays and books and et cetera. And whenever I order from them, in the box, they slip in this big catalog of movies and books and stuff you can order. It was similar to that.
I'll get that. Well, I haven't ordered from them in a minute. But I find, like you're saying, when I would order, then I feel like maybe around the holidays they'll send one in the mail.
Yeah.
I have them around. I started using them just to like wrap up stuff in the mail, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like who still uses catalogs, and I'm sure they're like probably the people who still order Blu-rays.
Yeah.
And they're not wrong.
There's something satisfying about, I mean, it's no different than what I enjoy about the video store experience of just browsing, of just seeing everything that's there as opposed to, you know, staring at a blank screen and like, it's on me to think of something, you know?
Yeah, well, they do all this focus group testing to see like what is the selling point of a movie, and that becomes its screen on Netflix, let's say. So, like, I thought Barbarian was awesome, but when you look at Netflix, it's a picture of Justin Long like smiling, and that
Oh,
tells you
right.
nothing. Like, I mean, like if I didn't know Barbarian's a really cool horror movie, like I might be like, I like Justin Long, fine. Do I want to see a 2025 starring Justin Long vehicle? Not really, but it's not showcasing what's special about the movie. The Barbarian VHS cover would have been an amazing, scary, maybe even a hand drawn type vibe. Those horror boxes, and horror fans like you and Joe talk about how those boxes would hold so much promise and excitement.
Oh, yeah.
For me, as a pussy little kid, they filled me with dread and horror, and I had nightmares over some of those boxes. I remember one that was like you pushed a button, and it would, a lot of them, the box would be interactive and go like,
Yeah.
"Arr," or whatever else.
I
Um,
remember because I was in a comic book store. This is one of my favorite experiences, is going into a comic book store as a kid. I believe it was Excalibur Comics in
yeah,
Providence, Rhode Island. And they had like a TV mounted up in the upper corner by the ceiling.
yeah,
And Evil Dead, I didn't know what it was, but Evil Dead 2 was on.
uh-huh.
And so the comic book guy, he's behind the counter, and then somebody buying shit, and they're just standing there laughing. And I was with my older brother, and I'm like, what is this movie? He's like, oh, Matt, you'd love this. And when I finally rented it, when I saw the cover, the skull with the eyeballs,
Yeah.
I had that moment where I was like, oh, it's this movie. I used
Yeah.
to look at the cover of that at the grocery store and be like, what is this?
Yeah, well, sometimes they're not accurate. One of the ones that really disturbed me
It's
for
true.
God knows why, but it was one where there was this really ugly, gross demon or zombie eating a lollipop, and the lollipop was an eyeball.
Right.
I believe that was Revenge of the Living Dead 3, maybe. And
Yeah, I think you're right.
and ultimately that movie is kind of a comedy almost, but like Evil Dead 2 is one of the first horror movies I saw because it was so high in the Entertainment Weekly books ranking of horror.
Oh,
And I remember honestly dreading watching it. I had a friend stay the night,
yeah.
and I was like, all right, let's get through this, whatever. And by the end, we were both cackling at it.
It's so brilliant.
Because of its mixture of gross and Three Stooges. So then I started going, are all horror movies this fun? And then you see something that really fucks you up. And you're
Right.
like, no, they're not. They're not this fun. I always talk about seeing Blair Witch Project with what was revealed to be a 105.7 fever. And I was diagnosed right after I left. They basically told me this could have made you impotent if you didn't come right in. Like you were in a dangerous zone.
Jesus.
Now, I mean, what a gift that would be to be impotent. But I walk in and I just felt hot and sweaty and not right. But I really wanted to see the movie, and it's being scared in that zone where you're already hot and bothered and like something's wrong. I thought I was having a heart attack or something. And really now I can't fathom a horror movie getting to me in any sort of real way. But they used to, up till college at least.
Yeah, yeah. I remember feeling that way after Blair Witch, which I saw in the theater, because I was like, because it was so real that it was
Yep.
unsettling. But
Yeah,
I remember,
I saw it at a time when we did not know if it was real or not, which
isn't that
lasted only a
incredible?
couple months. But yeah, it was genuine.
I mean, can that ever happen again with movies? I mean, that is incredible.
Yeah,
You know what I
don't
heard?
think so.
The slightly similar, but the story I heard was that WNUF Halloween special. You know that
Yes.
that thing.
Yep.
Apparently, I heard those guys that made that, they dubbed copies on VHSs and went to like movie conventions or horror conventions or even like VHS conventions and would
Yeah.
just leave them around, like left them
Oh,
in
that's
the
cool.
men's room or something so that people
Yeah.
would just discover it.
That's really cool.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen these types of things on TikTok. You probably have, but it'll be a group of people on a subway, and you're watching, and you're kind of like, all right, waiting for the comedy bit or whatever's going to actually happen in the video,
Yeah.
and then there'll be this like creature that's AI, and I hate supporting AI or saying there's anything cool about it, but some like creature comes in, grabs a guy, drags him under the subway car or whatever. And now, granted, I'm savvy enough to realize that's not real.
Right.
But I think if there is a way we're going to be tricked again by something like that, sadly, it'll probably involve the use of AI because of that
Yeah.
uncanny valley of you never really knowing what's real and what's not.
Yeah. You reminded me. Do you know Vince's story about Rocky IV?
No.
This is similar to what we were talking about because I don't know if you remember the commercials, or it might even be at the opening credits. It's like the boxing glove with the U.S. flag, and then the other boxing glove with the Soviet flag, and they come together and it explodes.
Yeah.
Vince went and saw the movie, and he said when he came home, and his dad asked how it was, he's like, "Oh, it's pretty good." He said his dad goes, What happened in the part where they punch each other in the gloves and it explodes?"
That's funny.
He's like, "No, Dad, that wasn't in the movie."
Had a trainer rig the gloves with dynamite as something to mess with Rocky? Or that's funny.
Right. Well, I mean, the last thing I want to know, when you were renting movies or even working at Blockbuster or even afterwards, what is there one movie you think you rented more than anything else, or a couple of movies that dominated?
Well, I was always a guy that if I'm going to be renting something more than twice, I'd buy it. And still, I'm that way. Like if I watch something and I know that that's going to be something I want to return to, I just buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not a clothes guy. I'm not a car guy. I'm not.
Sure.
This is my thing now, and I don't beat myself up about it. I always search for bargains and the best prices and everything. But in terms of renting it a lot, sadly, it probably would have been like a favorite softcore thing in a bind. I still didn't have internet, so it's like I'm leaving. I got 4 movies. Let me throw in Friend of the Family 2 or whatever. I think I remember liking something called Trois, as in Menage a. It was called Trois.
That is so fucking funny.
But I had a couple. I mean, for the most part, I used Blockbuster as a way to find new stuff and stuff that I had always been looking for, or something I'd never tried before. But I really miss that too. The box, the synopsis, the reviews, the 2 thumbs up, and how huge and important that was. I can't remember how many times my dad would come home with something and I'm like, "Why'd you rent that? 2 thumbs up?" Like that was just an instant. Everyone thought, okay, we might as well watch this. And we don't have that anymore. Rotten Tomatoes, but it's bullshit.
I'm trying to remember which Lynch movie it was, if it was Lost Highway, that it got 2 thumbs down, and they put that on the poster.
You can buy that as a T-shirt. Yeah.
Really?
2 thumbs down. And they talked to Lynch and he was like, "Well, there are certain people in the film community who consider an anti-endorsement from Siskel and Ebert to be a recommendation. And I'm certainly one of them." Because Ebert had shat on Blue Velvet just, 5 years before.
Oh, shat on everything. My God.
Yeah.
How you doing, Roger?
Yeah. They came around on him on Lynch by the time Mulholland Drive happened. But yeah, Ebert always had kind of a real condescending tone, always, but especially when he was talking about Lynch, where you're like, do you really think this man has no idea the power of these images or what he's doing? Or you really think that he did this movie to exploit Isabella Rossellini's body?
I mean, Mike, like you can't look, enjoy it or don't enjoy it. Like even David Lynch would be the first to be like, I don't think my stuff is necessarily for everyone. I can appreciate why someone wouldn't like it, but you can't watch it and say he's a hack.
And that, essentially the argument that Ebert had, that's still one that you can find on YouTube. It's one of the most controversial, and he went back on it too. He admitted he was wrong about it and later re-reviewed it. But it's like his argument was so false. It's like, when I thought of this beautiful actress being forced to walk naked down a lawn with her body exposed, dude, you wrote Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. Shut your mouth. You know, like, just because you have some weird fatherly thing with Isabella Rossellini does not mean that we all have to listen to your. It felt very personal and odd. And nobody loves Roger Ebert as much as I, maybe a few people, but when he's wrong,
maybe his widow, who knows?
Maybe. When he was wrong, he was real wrong,
Yeah.
and he was smug about it in a way that bothered me. Siskel was smug too. I more
God.
disagreed with him.
Yeah.
But
You know what's funny too is you want to talk about the Streisand effect is Ebert was so adamant that nobody go see the movie I Spit on Your Grave that he
Yes.
was the greatest promotional machine that they could have ever dreamt of.
yeah, they did the same thing with Silent Night, Deadly Night. If that's one to dig up too. Them
sure.
going, when I think of a child having their thoughts of Santa poisoned by this movie, it's like, guys, it's rated R.
Right.
You're adults. What are you talking about? Like, when I imagine a 5-year-old boy watching, they're not supposed to be watching.
Right. That would be horrible. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you have to at some point put some faith in the rating system and parents.
Tremendous. I feel like we could do this all day.
One of my
Patrick,
favorite things to talk about, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's great to talk about it with you.
I feel like we should do it again. I don't want to keep you. You have been very generous. Patrick Walsh, where can the kids find you online?
I am at the Patrick Walsh on Instagram. I co-host a podcast with comedian Joe DeRosa called We'll See You in Hell. We do 5 new episodes a month on Patreon, and it's very easily searchable. Patreon, We'll See You in Hell. And that's it. That's where you can find me.
And watch the Miss Pat Show.
That's correct. Yeah, we're on season 5 of the Miss Pat Show on BET Plus.
I love it. And Pat's always got stuff coming down the pike, and hopefully they all get greenlit and we can enjoy more of your work.
Well, you know, it's never been easier to get something greenlit. It's really, my timing is superb to be going out with my 2 favorite projects ever. Yeah,
it's just never felt more encouraging to be in this industry.
Yeah. It's like, it's the kind of vibe where, like, as you're going out with the pitch, the managers are like, now measure your expectations. It's like, come on, guys, let me at least get one no before we start this talk.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, bud.
Thank you.
I don't know when I'm going to put this up, or, you know, I don't know, but this was an important piece, I felt, for the first one that I want to do.
Had a blast, man. Have me back anytime.
Yeah, I love it.
Good luck
All right.
with it.
Thank you, pal.
All right, later.